Assalamu alaikum. Peace. It's Nyla, Coach Nyla.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace. It's Fatimah, Coach Fatimah.
And we are co-wives and co-founders of OutstandingPersonalRelationships.com and Outstanding Personal Relationships. I am actually setting this thing up, so yeah, but welcome to another Sunday Live. Make sure you guys are letting us know where you are viewing us from and all that other good stuff. While we get things set up, make sure you share, because sharing is caring. So make sure you are, sharing this as well. We have some good, topic for you guys today.
Yeah, we're gonna give you some time before we get started. So, assalamu alaikum, peace, Coach Nazir. Yep. So, you do have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, ideas? Make sure you share them down in the comment area as well. And feel free to share this information. Share the link, share where you're watching from. I mean, if you're on IG Live, assalamu alaikum, peace. YouTube, Facebook. We're here for you, social media. We're here for you today. And today's topic is also going to be here for you as well, I think, right?
Right, I was
Gonna be here for them.
adjusting this chair.
She cut me off every week.
All right, cool.
And let us know how's your week and how y'all dealing with all this. What is it? A new way of life they can set up for everybody.
Yeah.
Where you chiming in from? What state? What country? What's the word?
What's the word? Big
We'll
bird?
be preferably we'll be here for you. Maybe about 30 minutes or so.
Yeah. So yes. So make sure you guys, make sure you guys are ready for some good information, and be ready with your questions and all that other good stuff, because it's going to be interactive.
Yeah, because we'll be ready for the questions, especially on this topic.
So while he's sharing, make sure you guys are sharing as well. So share to the groups that you're a part of, to your page, or all that other good stuff. That page, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Your page, profile, groups. That's it. That was the thing was talking about. Profile. Story.
People don't know the difference.
Send us your questions, y'all.
Well,
It's on my Facebook page. It's not the page.
Well, I mean, like on IG,
Oh, yeah, indeed.
So share to your story.
Yep.
That's so cool though. I want to tell you, we've been seeing a number of you guys tag us or mention us in your stories, and that is like so humbling and so wonderful. We definitely appreciate the support and the shout outs and all that other good stuff. So thank you so much, fam.
So a lot of people did join the virtual salon with our sister Naima Robert in the UK.
Yeah.
So that's what's up. Right, you know what I'm saying? See you on Mars on Lake Mont, right here at the masjid, no doubt. Plugging in. All right, cool. So what's the topic today? How are we going? Let us know. You know what? Listen, for those of you who are new, and we know there are many people across the world and across the states. First off, welcome, and salam, peace. We know we have people from different backgrounds, different religions, and so on and so forth. Of course, we're Muslims, we practice Islam, and we follow the way of polygyny throughout the Prophet Muhammad Islam practiced it as Muslims. So with that being said, we talk about the universal principles of polygyny, and we're not just, when I say polygyny, I'm talking about polygyny because we're going to be really digging in that today, really as a topic. But just to be straight and direct to the point, we are pro morals. So it doesn't matter if you practice monogamy or polygyny or whatever form of marriage, if you will, between those two. That really doesn't matter. The same principles really apply, because when you look at what's considered Islamic polygyny or polygyny in Islam, basically I'm monogamously married to each of these women. All right, Coach Fatimah and I have 25 years, Coach Nyla and I have 10 years. So they don't have a relationship with each other. That's really more a polyamory thing. So many times you might see pictures, images, videos of people and so on, and the women have a relationship with each other. That's really not polygyny. That's more of a polyamory thing. And people can, they can do whatever they want to do. That's the choice. All right, but we are pro morals. So we practice either monogamy or polygyny as Muslims, period. So, but today's topic in particular is a little touchy for some people. I mean, yesterday we had the pleasure of viewing a good friend of ours, the interview on the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. And let's talk about that. I got to zoom in.
Okay, well, what more to talk about on that part, but they were talking about polygyny. I didn't know what the whole thing was about for the most part, but I was able to catch, some pieces of it. And, yeah, the Dope Muslim podcast? The Dope Muslim Woman podcast. I don't know why I'm tongue-tied today, but yeah, and polygyny period is a touchy subject, and that was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So weird.
so that was one of the things, and they actually had a friend, Khalil Ishmael. I mean, you watched it, you know who it is,
I met him in Atlanta.
Right. And,
While I'm over here by IG, got to respond. Walaikum salam, Sister Asma from down in GA.
Yeah.
Hey, she always in the house. Sister Zara out there representing, indeed.
I'm like, so yeah, so it was some really good information and some questions that were put out there. And one of the things, and this is what's going to segue into our topic, one of the things that were talked about, or I think he made mention of, was how women, can be, their response to polygyny can be toxic, could be the issue, could be the problem with marriage period. And so we'll talk about that because we've experienced that stuff, because we've just recently experienced it on our social media, where people were really going in about how they felt about polygyny and all that other good stuff like that.
Now, to be, again, today is kind of more for the naysayers, and also just to remind you that your marriage is your marriage, your business is your business. Okay.
Right.
Now, one of the things, and some people ask why do why y'all share, why you do this and that? Listen, and alhamdulillah, we appreciate the dua to protect us from the evil eye, because it's real.
Yeah,
All right,
yes.
jealousy is real, fear is real, and at least for some, we know that there are forces at work.
Mm-hmm.
So the anti-moral forces tend to be out in full effect.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, sometimes they may wear kimars and niqab and so on and so forth. And the main thing is the tongue. So we have to make sure, one, if you are a Muslim, if you're a God-fearing person, if you practice and have some type of morals, that you adhere to them and not place yourself above God, above Allah Ta'ala. That's so important. So going into a little bit of the topic, so there are things that are said. So for example, if a man decides to practice polygyny, or here, let me ask you some questions. Have you ever heard that a single woman shouldn't be around married women?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been told that?
Yeah.
I've heard that a single woman shouldn't be around married men.
Or no, I've heard that, like,
Like, people don't like that.
yeah.
Women, we're talking about women though.
Right.
Right.
We are.
Right, so I'm saying.
Well, I've heard that it didn't look right, or I've also heard that married women don't like single
You don't like
women.
being around
So
single
that's-
women.
Right, no doubt, no
So
doubt.
either way, they catching it.
Right. And why is that the case? Why y'all feel that's the case?
Because people are afraid, I think, and we know this, me and my co-wife and I have experienced a lot of women saying things or coming to us about different problems or trying to make us the problem. They're scared their husband's gonna marry someone else, or cheat, which is not marriage. We're not talking about cheating, but that's the way it's looked at.
Yeah, it ain't even about why I think that, or why I've been told that, or why people actually had an issue with me when I was a single woman. I actually caught that from people, where it was like, she's out to take your husband, she's out to, whatever. So those were those things that I've heard being actually the focus of that type of talk, or don't befriend her, or she's a snake, or, all these different things, which came from people who did not know me or anything like that. So, and I've seen that, not just experiencing it personally, but I've seen it from other single women, where it's like Coach Fatimah said, like my co-wife said, you can't catch a break because you may just be a nice person and want to befriend some people, and they be like, oh, she
It's
ain't
a
got
threat.
nobody.
It's a threat. Somebody's encroaching on your
Right.
territory. So what are some toxic responses when it comes to polygyny in particular that can cause other social ills?
A couple of things. One, toxic response I heard, oh, know your worth. You're worth more than that. Make sure that, what was
That sounds like good advice, though.
Okay, it sounds like
We
good.
need context.
It sounds like good advice when a person says, know your worth, but to say, know your worth because I'm trying to think of the exact or something similar, but it was pretty much like, okay, well, you have low self-esteem because you're sharing a man, because you're married to the same man. You have, low self-esteem. Incoming wives, they have low self-esteem because they can't find their own man. Initial wives, they have low self-esteem because they're staying with a man who decided to marry someone else. So that's the thing where it's like, well, know your worth because, you're worth more than that. You're worth more than, sharing somebody, because he should love you, and he doesn't love you if he's with somebody else, is what has been said.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
I don't know. To me, it's just so many different things. Even if you're at peace with being in polygyny, I find that people don't want you to be happy. So even though I'm grown, Coach Nazir can't keep me with him, and I can't be kept in polygyny if I don't want to be in polygyny. So to have somebody try to rob me of being an adult, or rob me of having my own independent critical thinking skills, is upsetting, because what they're saying to you is that you don't have a brain. Let me think for you. You require my opinion on your life as a woman that's 40 some years old or 30 some years old at the time. I have children that are older than some of these stupid people, and I'm gonna call them stupid, that have said some really dumb things to me. And I remember and you've heard grandma say this, and Coach Nyla might have heard her grandmother say this. She used to say, I'm gonna forget more than you gonna learn. And she used to tell us, I was doing this before you were pooping in a rag. So some of these 20-year-olds that have come up, well, I don't know how you do it. Or they will come to our adult daughters and say, well, I don't know how your mother, and you gotta be careful talking about people, mommy, my kids are quick with it. And they also, so they have these people say these negative things, but they've also had people say negative things about my co-wife to them. And they weren't always in a place where they were welcoming, but now that they are, same thing. They're very territorial about our family, period. So to try to rob us of being intelligent, or try to rob us of having high self-esteem because we share a commonality, or we're sharing the same husband, it's so disrespectful, because I think about us as individuals first, and I go, we don't even belong to our parents. Our parents can't dictate or tell us what to do. They can request or try to learn some things, but we're not concerned about whether our parents now. My father's passed away, and so is Coach Nazir's father. And my father didn't have an issue with it because he knew he wasn't, he knew it. Look, if he can do it and you're happy, cool. If you're not happy, then I have a problem. But he wasn't the best husband in the world, so he couldn't look at mine and judge. But
And mine wouldn't have had a problem with it when he passed before.
yeah, he was Muslim, but I don't have both parents like that. But even my mother was like, if you're happy, then I'm okay. And I'm glad you talked to me about it, because if I had saw them together, I would have went, what is going on? Did they get divorced? She didn't think about polygyny though. So it's just that disruption of people trying to disrupt my self-respect that is upsetting to me, or the disrespect in our family, period, is upsetting for me. But like I said on an IG post, we've all said this, I'll make time. you know, if I need to get somebody together about it, I absolutely will. Because if you're talking about my co-wife or our husband, then you're trying to make us all three look crazy, which is making you think you're trying to make our family look crazy, which is, you know, you're not gonna do that, not with the three of us. Check it out.
Yeah, polygyny. I was just thinking about, you know, the thing is that when people are uneducated about it, I mean, it's one thing being ignorant. There's nothing being stupid or arrogant, you know, and all that other stuff. And the one thing is that we welcome questions. We welcome, you know, because some people don't know. You know, some people, it's like, okay, well, how can you do this, or how do you do it, or, you know, and they're genuine questions. That's fine. Sometimes though, it's really people that's really trying to come for a person's happiness, like my co-wife said. And the interesting thing is, usually those are people who are not happy, period. You know, if you're happy, if you're enjoying yourself and you have a great relationship, you're happy for people, period. And you're not trying to force whatever it is that you think is supposed to be the right way on somebody else, because you realize that I'm living my life the way I'm living it. I'm happy with it. They're living their life the way they're living it. They're happy with it. And you don't have the time to micromanage somebody else's relationship. And so I was thinking about, I think it was on Oprah a long time ago, but I remember it because it was so clear to me about how people would respond or react to certain relationships depending on how their relationship is going. And I was happy in my life watching this episode, and it was so many, but it was, and then I don't know who else was watching it with me, but it was some other people that was on the panel or an Oprah show, and they were watching these different couples, and these different couples were just of different type of backgrounds and relationships. They had one where it was like an older, I think an older lady and a younger man, and an older man and a younger, it was like that. And it had like someone with tattoos all over them and different things like that. And it was like interracial, it was different stuff. And people had their different things to say about these couples. And to tell the people who are like either single and miserable, or married and miserable, or in a relationship and miserable, had miserable things to say about these couples. And it was just by looking at them. It was like, oh, well, she looks like she's a gold digger. Or, oh, you know, she's a sugar mama that blah, 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 whatever. Or, oh, these people, they're not happy with each other. Like they're dirty and this and that, whatever, the tattoo or the ones with tattoos. Me, I was like, you know what, I bet you they're tattoo artists. And, you know, they have this great relationship and blah, blah, blah. Found out they were married for like forever, had a tattoo parlor and all this other stuff. But all the people that were on there were very happy, were together for a long time and were enjoying themselves. But the people who actually had great relationships that were on the panel had great things to say about every couple. So I started realizing that. So when it took a minute for me to be able to be comfortable in polygyny. Like I know I was fine in my marriage. I was fine knowing that this is what I'm practicing, but I was too busy worried about what other people were thinking and what other people were saying that caused some issues, that will cause issues. If we allow it, it will cause issues in our relationships. Those things that cause relationship issues at the beginning with issues in the relationship between my co-wife and I at the beginning. It caused relationships strife between our husband and I at the beginning and things like that, because you said, well, it was a big old mess. Because when we allow those things to affect our lives, it will affect and it will infect our lives. Yeah. And that's the thing when we talk about it being toxic. Some people may think that they're well-meaning and everything like that, and some are just out to just cause drama. That's what it is. But some kids with stuff too. Yeah. They would ask my children, "What did your mother do?" Yeah. Like what? Yeah. So it's these different things where it's very toxic, is destructive. And as women, we should be able to hold each other up and create a sisterhood. It's so much going on that where people see it, whether it's men or women or anywhere. They say, women are catty, women are petty, women are this, and women are. Being a woman, I see it. I've experienced it, and it's hurtful. It's damaging. It's damaging to us as a whole. And with women outweighing men, is very dangerous to put something, to put some trouble and drama and some bad blood on something that can be beneficial. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely beneficial for those who practice it and practice it well and practice it like how it's supposed to be practiced. I'm the type of person that talks about happiness and peace, not just with me, but with everybody. Because if you have peace, if allow people to have peace. And my thing is with women outweighing men, we got women out there, and I'm like, I would want for my sisters what I want for myself. So I love being happy. I enjoy being peaceful. I remember being a single mother, and it was rough. It was hard. Yes, it could be done and everything, but it's hard. So I'm not saying that, you only marry somebody because they're a single parent, but that's an option out there for them. But the thing is, women get so frustrated or so territorial that they're thinking about, okay, I'm all great and gravy and it's all good, but anybody else that comes and have the same thing or similar that I have, or even if it's with my husband, who I know can be beneficial to this other person, it's a problem. It's an issue. So how is that wanting for your sister that you want for yourself? Oh yeah, it's fine for her. I want for her to have the same thing, but not with my, not with my husband, not with my man. He's not yours. He's a loss. He's not your man.
We're not his wife.
Yeah,
it's
not.
Belong to Allah.
We're not your.
You are our wives, yeah, you absolutely are our wives.
Not
Not my humans, but yeah.
So it's not your possession, not your property.
Right.
Exactly.
So we have to
That's
really be careful of being very possessive when it comes to that, because it is damaging. And not only is it damaging to the people who you are spitting your venom to, and I'm talking to the people who are doing that, it's damaging to yourself and your soul. So that's the thing that you have to worry about. If you're not worried about anybody else, worry about you and your soul and what you are doing and what that is causing for you. Because negative will beget negative. And as long as you consistently be negative, negative is going to follow you everywhere you go. So just be careful with that.
Well said. Other people's opinions. Now, Kay asks who makes a statement, and I was going to touch on this point, and says the very same people in salt and polygyny are usually very tolerant, if not participatory, in other lifestyles like homosexuality. Speak on it. That's real. That's real. I have not seen people as mad about things that are clearly haram in Islam. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen people upset, now that it's made legal and Obama really brought it to the forefront and now it's okay to, in society for them. Then, oh yeah, well, we got to help support their cause. They'll help support their cause before talking about polygyny or talking about racism. You know what I'm saying? To be an anti-racist, for example. Mm-hmm. So not just that, whether it's zina. Oh, it's a boyfriend, girlfriend. Oh yeah, I remember, before I was Muslim, so it's okay. It's not okay. But you're not as vehement about speaking against those types of things. But yeah, when it's dealing with polygyny, how hypocritical is that? You know what I'm saying? In Islam, the Prophet Muhammad Islam said, when we make the doors to marriage difficult, zina becomes easy. All right, so zina or adultery, fornication, if you will, becomes easy. Now we're living in a world and society today that doesn't, polygyny is not normalized, even in Muslim countries. Now this is what the challenge with me when it comes to Muslims in particular. We Muslim is the one who submits. So polygyny is a part of Islam. Polygyny did not start or begin with Islam. Okay, let me just be really clear about that. But Islam is the first scripture that restricted it. Restricted up to 4 wives at one time. All right, but it's a form of marriage, and this was normalized throughout Islam's glorious history. Unfortunately, where we are today, that's another discussion. But when it's normalized, it opens the door for more options. So I think on a weekly basis, what is like Dateline or 2020, there's always some spouse killed the other spouse and there was an affair, life insurance policy, all this type of stuff going on. Now, wouldn't it be interesting if polygyny was another option or even legalized, though I don't, think a lot of stuff should be legalized dealing with the system that we're under, but let's just say it was legalized, hypothetically speaking. Now there are rules and regulations that go on to this. Now there are levels to it, if you will. So now you got to be responsible. See, polygyny comes to make you responsible. That's why there are restrictions. That's why there are rules and regulations that goes along with it. So if you are a Muslim and you have a problem with polygyny, that doesn't mean you have to like it or want to participate in it. But if you have a problem with it, you spitting venom, oh, this person's a homewrecker. Oh, that's a snake. Oh, it's just not from, I don't know how you do it. You're talking against Al-Hakim, the most wise. You're talking about your creator who put something in place from the best people on the planet. The Prophet Islam, the first and second generation, follow them, and follow them. Practice and showed us how to do it. So we have to check again our souls, because whatever you spit out that just weighs on your scales. There are people in our local community. We have more friends outside of our local community, even virtually or social media wise. You may meet in different cities, like if you're going down to Atlanta, or you're on the East Coast or what have you. We have more friends. I'm sure my wife can name more friends outside of our local community than they can right here where we are. There are people, friends of mine and so on, that men that their wives are against it. So they speak against it. They might want to bring pressure. Why do you do whatever? To me, that displays weakness as a man. A man should say, listen, monogamy it's moral, it's a way of Islam. Polygyny is a way of Islam. It is what it is. Why would I have anything else to say upon it? And usually men don't have the issue. They just don't want to hear the wise mouths. All right. So there were friends of ours. Hey, we used to go and be invited every year. We used to have a certain thing, but now practice polygyny. Oh, you ain't getting invited to this no more. Like literally, y'all canceled from the barbecue. Now, are we concerned about it like that? No, we got a big family. We good. We rock with each other. We super dope. You know what I'm saying? So we had to weigh whether or not in our privacy and thriving in our privacy, and whether or not we should go out and really teach how to go there, because all you hear is you know why you hear the negative stories on polygyny? Because there's so many women just carrying it all around. Sadly, we don't need to put negative stories about stuff. Negativity spreads 13 times faster than positivity. So if I'm going to bring stats, I can bring you to 50, 55, 60% stats of monogamous marriages failing. Am I going to throw monogamy in the garbage at the time and say that? No. That's a moral way to do it. But if you're not working on yourself in personal development and growth and everything else, then I can see why you probably fear polygyny. You probably fear polygyny because you're not living up to the expectations in monogamy. And I'm speaking to the sisters out there that have something negative to say on something that's not even affecting their lives. Reflect on that. That's our soul work that we have to do. All right, so Kay, I agree with you 100%. If we were just as mad about things that are clearly haram, whether it's out there gambling, people married to husbands right now that are abusing them. Yes. They're victims of domestic violence and everything else going on in their own homes. They don't speak about that, though. They speak about polygyny because, hey, maybe somebody might be tripping. Come on now. If you're not as upset about zina, if you're not as upset about homosexuality or not as vocal, then you might want to shut up about polygyny, which your Lord sent the best person on the planet to give us the example on how to live that as a solution, even today. Even today, over 1,430 some years after it was legislated in Medina, it's still beneficial today, even more so, in my opinion. Okay, so anyway, I just need to air that out for a second.
Well, you did that.
All right, so let me get back over here. I took a couple of notes, just trying to stay on task. And then you have those who, if the husband wants to speak to them. Now, keep in mind this. We're talking about Khalid Ismail yesterday. He mentioned, honesty and having to be honest and, being upfront. And it's not as easy as people think, because someone asked a question about what about secret marriages or what about this, or they don't do, they were talking about the method on which things are done, and which is legit. That's fine. So, and I remember Coach Fatimah before saying, you know what? Are you the type of person your husband can even come to talk about polygyny? Or is it just, you family feud that mother right. Immediately. Oh no, there's that book by Bilal Phillips. Let's bury that up under somewhere. No. You know what I'm saying? Are you that type of person or individual? So you have those, or what do you feel about those who say, well, I'm just going to leave him, divorce him, take the kids, he'll never see them again. Because sadly, this happens. It happens. And threats are made all the time. And some are followed through with. Breaking up the family and stuff like that because someone wants to practice something that should be normalized, something that's looked at as a sunnah of the Prophet Islam. Now, again, just to be clear, just because it's somebody's right to practice something doesn't mean you have to act upon it. There are still rules, again, and regulations and restrictions. But what are your thoughts on the threat to just divorce and leave all the kids and everything else?
I don't know. We're 90s people, so we watch a lot of 90s TV. I remember Roseanne Barr and the Roseanne Show, and she was a stand-up comedian here in the U.S. And she said, if you want to punish a man, you don't leave with the kids, you stay there with them. But here's the thing about, and my co-wife can speak on this topic as well. She's trained on it. You can't just. The thing is, you can't just dump somebody out of your heart like that. I know. Speaking on emotion and just saying, oh, I'm going to leave and I'm taking the kids. First of all, they're not just your kids. Let's get that out the way first, because you didn't make them by yourself. They're just as much your husband's children as they are yours. And all the kids and all the people belong to Allah Ta'ala. And it's not of you to create these rulings that I'm going to just take them. You're just skating all over and disrespecting Islam by even making a statement saying, I'm going to take them, you'll never see them again. Who do you think you are? That you'll wake up one day and say, I'm taking the kids, and that won't affect them in a negative way. They won't hate you for saying it. One thing you don't need to do or should not do. And, you know, like I said, I have an 8-year-old, my youngest is 8, my oldest will be 25. Even to this day, I don't sit up and have conversations with her and disrespect her father within those conversations. And if I feel like she's dancing on the edge of disrespect, then she gets checked. I remember she told me one time, she was like, yeah, Umi, I was going through my eye roll phase, and we were in the car. And she rolled her eyes at me. I ain't saying nothing to her. She just cow right up, hey, you just got hit because you disrespecting me. So what I'm not going to do is let her disrespect me, disrespect Islam or anybody. So when we talk about, or people have threatened to leave the husband and take the kids, I would ask sisters to do something. What if he said that to you? What kind of violence in your heart, what kind of hurt would you feel if your husband said, I'm leaving you and I'm taking the kids with me? Would you attack him for even saying it? Would you cry? Would it break your heart? Yes, it would. So when you throw these things, we think because they're men, they can't get hurt. That's what we think. They can say these things. He'll be all right, he's a man. It's not going to bother him. Well, if he wants me to stay, then he won't get married again. I got news for you.
And that
It's
matter of fact, there's a question
in his head already.
on that as well up here.
What?
No, yeah, just to
Oh,
go back on what Coach Fatimah said with you know, how would you feel? I'm just listening to it, and it was like breaking my heart. Like if somebody
I go to some, I probably
so the thing is that I used to be that one that think that men didn't have feelings, emotions, all that. However,
like this,
you realize when you really look at it, I mean, people are people, and you know, human needs and, you know, just being human. But, you know, and I think the one thing is women know that they can hurt that way. You know, women know, and it's really dangerous because what if your bluff is called? How about that part? You know, where, okay, well, do it then, because if I'm going to deal with, if I'm gonna deal with a lot of stress and drama and just negativity that way, maybe it's best that the kids don't see us like that. I remember people, and I heard it on something, but it was talking about how some people who realized as they got older or grew, you know, some married couples, they felt that they had to separate, and they were better in raising their children than being together. So sometimes that is a decision, that if someone is being destructive in your family dynamic, you know, that's where it does take the husband to say, you know what, is this is this is me staying with a person that is threatening the well-being of my family worth being with? And it's not about the polygyny thing anymore. It's not about him marrying someone else. It's about the disrespect. It's about the destruction. It's about the control that someone is trying to pull on the family. So now when you think that, if a person think that that's what it is, like, oh, well, he did this because it was polygyny. Oh, because he wanted to marry someone else. No, because you know what? I decided to practice a right. I decided to come to you about it because we're family, because we should be able to be in this together. And I'm respecting you, but you totally disrespected me and the entire family. So now it's not about a polygyny thing anymore. It's about, a respect thing, which is very heavy when it comes to developing and cultivating and building on outstanding relationships, including marriage, as well as another form of marriage is polygyny.
Indeed, 100%. So, going to our dear sister, she got to be a sister, aspiring, so could be a brother, but usually a sister.
We've been wrong.
It's more kind, right? She says, Coach Nazir, you mentioned before once decided polygyny is worth it. From the male perspective, what makes it worth it? Well, it's not really just a male perspective. Now, a couple of things I need to quantify this here, because there's a few things in play. When you first get married, if you've already discussed polygyny and made a decision on that and spoke with your intended or your fiance or whatnot who's about to marry you, and as the man, you're saying, listen, I'm not interested in polygyny. I'll never be into polygyny. I'm not going to practice polygyny. You agree on that. She agrees on that. She says, listen, I don't want you to ever practice polygyny. If you do, I need a heads up, and so on and so forth. And you could just let me go at the time, or I could choose to stay. I want that freedom. If you've already done that at the beginning, like before getting married, obviously, be the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. If you've done that, then you have to honor, as a man, as a husband, you have to honor your position and your word. Now, here's the thing. I got married when I was 19. I wasn't thinking about polygyny. I was thinking about this woman that I said I was going to marry when I first saw her. Like, that's going to be my wife. Before I was even Muslim, right? So, and again, this is not a Muslim talk or training. I'm not teaching you Islam. We're Muslims who practice polygyny. So my man, I believe it's a man, or it could be a sister too, Zay. That's a little ambiguous for me. But either way it go, Hebrew Israelite. So, salam, shalom as well. They mentioned, it's funny how, coming from our culture or Israelite culture, for example, polygyny, is normal, but homosexuality and these different things get pushed. So I want to, but back to my original point. If you said this at the beginning, you have to honor your stuff. You have to honor your word. Now, here's the thing, though. You do, at the same time, if you're not thinking about something at 20 years old, doesn't mean at 30, 35, you have matured, grown, or changed your mind or felt differently. How many of you have ever thought something so strong at one time, and now you look back at it and just be like, I just didn't know. I know I have more often than I like to admit. These are just facts. It is the way it is. So if you've already agreed on something like that, you don't really have an out, if you will. It's up for the wife to let you know, listen, this is what I didn't sign up for this. We already spoke about this. You gave me agreement, and I based my decision upon our understanding. So you got to stay on it as a man. All right, now going to the next part. If you did not discuss it, and all of a sudden, not really all of a sudden, but 10, 15, 20 years later, usually when you first get married, if you get married young like we did, you're not established. You don't really have anything going anyway. The only thing you're thinking about is, I need to rent something or buy something. I need to be getting my money together, become a man, these types of things as a man from my perspective. So you're not thinking about anything else. But 10 years may pass, 15 years, you may be established or settled or growing or vision or whatever. It may expand your family or growth, and you change your mind or decision. Okay, now it's at that point you determine whether or not practicing that, if you don't have the ability to go and your wife says, oh, okay, you want to practice? Okay, cool, let's go ahead and make that happen. Which is a rarity, number one. Rarity, number one, and number two, and number three. But again, if you're speaking about it and the wife is reluctant or hesitant, that's to be understood. I mean, that's normal jealousy. We think of Prophet Islam and Aisha radiallahu anha when Juwariya radiallahu anha, our mothers, Ummahatul Mu'mineen, she first saw Juwariya, and she knew where she came from radiallahu anha. She knew a little bit about her and her background and everything else. She said she knew the first time she saw her, laid eyes upon her, the Prophet Sallallahu would like her. Would like you want to marry her. That jealousy kicked in. This is normal. This is normal stuff. It's human. She was jealous. normal, this transmission, and how do you all reach us all the way there? She said she knew it the moment she saw it. She was beautiful and was jealous. And that wasn't the first and only wife or only potential wife at the time. So this is normal stuff. So when you start talking about polygyny, there are a whole plethora of emotions. There's our societal conditioning that goes on. There's this whole knight in shining armor, living happily ever after idea. And, oh, this is my property, my man, my husband that I don't share with anyone. It's just mine. Like, oh, open my box for my husband and put him back. He'll be here when I get back. And type idea, that is really fostered. And as El Primo mentioned, and we'll talk about that shortly, that's really a massive function of white supremacy and Eurocentricity, because monogamy is relatively new, and no Greco-Roman philosophy, how stuff even came about, is really interesting, because monogamy just means you have one legal wife, but you can have an unlimited number of concubines, boyfriends, girlfriends, jump downs, mistresses, whatever you want to call them. You can have an unlimited number of those concubines, but one legal wife. That's monogamy, and that's kind of what our society practices more: serial monogamy or unrestricted polygamy, where you're in all these different relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend stuff. So now, to your question, since I've prefaced it, is what makes it worth it from the male perspective? Well, it depends. And that's going to be the answer to really most things, because there's no cookie cutter thing. There's not necessarily the same motivation thing from many different brothers that we know and coach and speak with, our students and whatnot. There are many different reasons. So what will make it worth it? I would ask brothers to decide whether or not that desire is more important to go ahead and attempt to practice that with a wife that is not cooperative at the time, versus living a life in resentment that you wish you could have, should have, would have did something, but this person you're with held you back from that. Some people would rather say, okay, I have peace, I have a good marriage, let me just go ahead and do that. I'll brush that maybe to another time, or maybe just not this lifetime. And that could be okay, that's fine. All right. Then you have the other one say, you know what? I really want to do this. It's a part of Islam. I don't see what there's a problem with this. I want to practice the fullness of Islam. And I know I can be better. I know I'm a good guy, but there's this drama over here. Is that worth it? Or then she's threatening, that toxic responses. I'm gonna take the kids and I'm gonna do this and that, and stuff that you built together and worked together, and all this stuff, and trust feels like it's broke because you're practicing something on Islam. Again, it's toxic, poisonous responses. Then if that's the case, it may be easier to just part in peace or give it some time and see. So again, that's where I go to it depends. It depends on the brother, how he's made. There are others who say, all right, well, I'll get married, been married five years, maybe in different states or countries or something like that. And they have two wives, but the other one may not know the other one. He couldn't talk, couldn't have communications, or chose not to have communications and really, have more courage. So many different types of circumstances. So it really depends on whether or not, again, you have the agreement at the beginning. And if you did, you need to honor that. There's not really much leeway there. Or if you didn't have the agreement, you just change your mind over time, determining whether or not living a life of resentment is okay. Or if there's not gonna be any resentment, just sticking with what you got. You know what I'm saying? One marriage is good enough. That fulfills the needs that you have as a man. That gives you an outlet and stuff like this, procreation and everything. One is fine. One satisfies conditions. But the one who created us also knows that polygyny is a massive solution. And it's not, again, just a religious thing where we're just talking to Muslims. No, in my community right now, there's a majority non-Muslim, over 95% non-Muslim. It's a huge benefit. It's a huge benefit. And there are people tuned in right now. They're not Muslims, they're not Christians, they're not Israelites, and so on. They're watching right now. I know some of them personally at our different community events or protests, whatever. So they see the value in it. That is what makes it that much more sad when you see a Muslima talking crazy or having negative connotations and spitting poison, and one not knowing that it's going to come back to her, because we know the reason most people are going to be in Jahannam is because of their tongues. And then what that may lead to, because that opens the door for easy zina. If you think just marriage, did you really think, if you're married, did you really think, oh, my husband married me, just so he could have halal sex? Yeah, you see how condescending that is? So for a person to put that on and say polygyny as well, how foolish. When in reality, sex is easy in this society. Right now, how much money you got? Depending on, I guess, the quality or caliber of people these days. And that's not looked down upon. Interestingly enough, I learned recently that back after World War II, polygyny or polygamy in general, but specifically polygyny, was what Congress was discussing. They were discussing legalizing because there were so many women that needed men, and millions of men were killed for this war. That was not a religious war, by the way. So it wasn't a religious thing. But Congress was discussing it. Now, the polygamy portion didn't make it into law. But what did make it was certain states were able to adopt their own rules and regulations regarding prostitution. That became legal. So then you had the bunny ranches out in Nevada and other places where prostitution was legal. Amazing how this prostitution law came as a viable solution to polygamy was pushed back because, again, polygyny requires a man to be responsible for his pleasures. You're not going to have this pleasure that you're looking at in your driver if you're not responsible for that, being able to take care of and have rules and regulations that go along with it. So, good question, aspiring soul, bro, sis. I don't know. I think it's a sister though. So, they'll make polygyny direct conflict with an American side that promotes irresponsibility, especially amongst Black people. My brother speaking facts. Oh, thank you, Kay. If you have a question, this is make it easy for us too. Yes. If you have a question, because we read all the comments, but if you have a question, put several question marks at the beginning before you ask the question, because then we can see the questions quickly before we go back through the comments. Inshallah, you won't see us all like looking down, reading this to pause. It'll make it a little easier. We should have said that a long time ago, but alhamdulillah. Do you have anything to say?
No.
Just answer questions.
All right, Jacqueline asks, Coach Fatimah, were there feelings of inadequacy for you when he came to you with a decision to take a second wife?
He didn't come to me with his decision to take a second wife. I didn't know about it. We've talked about it before. We trained about different things, and he didn't have to. We're Muslim. Because even my children asked me, what did I do wrong? To upset him in such a way. First of all, one of my daughters, who is now going to be 20, was 9. And she said she thought it meant he divorced me. So she had a very physical reaction to it. And it was very hard for her. And I had to explain to her when he wasn't around, because he wasn't there physically in the house when she asked me that. She was like, I thought that meant you guys were divorced. And it's funny because my mind didn't go there, but I wasn't 9 years old. So that was traumatizing for me because I didn't get a chance to explain anything to her. And I felt like she should have had a lot of things explained to her, like the rest of my daughters were now grown, were younger than teenagers. And then
we had one teenager at the time. And then the rest were preteens.
Some preteens and some, I think one of my daughters was she, I don't know, maybe 6. At any rate, that I did because my information was inadequate. I wasn't inadequate, and I knew I wasn't deep down, but I said, if my child is asking me this, then what if my other children are feeling that way? I had one of my relatives ask me what I did. Nobody pointed the finger at him too much. It really started with me, and then it was like, oh, this is just something he wanted to do, but they wanted to know what I did to force him to get another wife, and that was upsetting. So the information that I had was inadequate, not me. And I stand on that to this day. I don't agree with a lot of the ways things happen, but I'm looking back on stuff as someone that grew. And so I can kind of see why things had to be the way they were. And now I'm able to take a lot of the experiences that I had that were either positive or negative and teach other people about best practices. That's why we talk about best practices, is so that, you know, maybe you can have some wins that we had, and maybe you can avoid some of the losses that the 3 of us suffered. But, you know, of course you go, okay, well, what happened? Of course you start to analyze different things and start to rehearse things in your mind, or go back in the future, reinvent the wheel. You do all that stuff. You're a person, but it doesn't help when other people are helping to facilitate, the negative voices that you have in your head. I had a lot of people coming to me. People I'm not even friends with would just come up to me and ask me some of the most ridiculous questions. And I'm like, are you dumb? I don't even talk to you in my real life. Why are you talking to me now because he got another wife? Go somewhere and scratch or go do something. Get away from me with it. Because what I found is that people were asking me questions they wanted to ask him. And that's not fair. So it was upsetting, but I had decided that I didn't want to be upset anymore. And it just came down to that, regardless of whether he was upset or my co-wife was upset. I did not want to be upset in my life anymore. And I decided not to be, because just like now, my kids need me. They need me to not be upset about this, period. It's not serving my soul at all to be upset about it. We have some other questions.
No, we do have some other questions. So, a really good question from our sister, no name, Medina. She's a new convert, going on 2 years, not married. She came across a brother who hints or asked about her thoughts on polygyny. She came from a family of independent women, not Islam. And they said, I'll be a weak woman. I heard that before. Saying it is about his pleasures and not yours. How would she balance her family and her deen with that?
Are these are not Muslim people?
No, I'm a new convert. Yeah, this is a Muslim.
They're not, okay.
Trying to find a way to say this. Because your family is your family. They're not getting married. Your family do not dictate your life. And I'm saying that because when I got into polygyny, none of my family members, my family that's Muslim, it's what I married into. No one else.
And for clarity, we use the word family and relatives.
Yes.
They're not interchangeable.
Exactly.
So as a new convert, welcome to the fam. Yes. We're part of your family. The Quran, Allah Ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. The believers are nothing except brothers. All right, and just know that the story of Prophet Noah, rahimahullah, understand that when he cried out and thought that his son was part of his family, Allah Ta'ala clarified that no, he was not of your family. Yep, even his own son, who was on disbelief and did not follow him and was drowned in the flood. So just, it helped me after becoming Muslim to make that distinction between family and relatives. Family helps you with your goals, helps you start to stay on the right path, go in the right direction. All of this is good stuff, and they back you up and they got your back. All right, family, 2 o'clock in the morning, you get a flat, you can call them, they're not bringing it back up anymore. All right, there's some relatives that you're not gonna allow one of your kids. Or they call it 2 o'clock in the morning, that's the end of that, it's a wrap. So just know, for us at least, it's really helped to make that distinction between the term family and relatives. So.
Yeah, no, that's good, because that's true. I feel that way, and it's been very beneficial for me. One of the things, you're a new convert. You said, and you talked about. So I'm assuming independent women, and that's okay. I'm gonna go into that because that's usually sound like a Black woman thing. I'm just being real because I grew up with that. I'm strong, independent Black woman. I don't need nobody, and I don't need this, and I don't need that, and that, and the other. Okay, so I stated before, single parenting is very hard. And it's not about we all need something, and we need people, period. We're here together. So that's a whole other topic on that. However, I come from women from Mississippi. My grandma, my mama, they're, the oldest of their whole bunch. So they were doing the lifting and the this and of that. So yeah, talking about strong women that were doing their own thing and doing this stuff and having all this other stuff. Yeah, I came from that. However, my mom was a single parent up until I was an adult. And it was 4 of us, of my siblings. Now it was 3 siblings because it was me, so it's 4 children. But now it's 9. And she's married now and everything like that. So out of my whole life, I saw her struggle as a single parent and do these different things. And yes, she was a strong, independent Black woman and did her thing and everything like that and raised a strong, independent Black woman. However, it was rough as she was doing that. And just because you're independent don't mean that you don't welcome help, that you don't need help, that it's not okay to get help. You know, being independent doesn't mean that you have to shy away from that stuff. You just because you can do it, this is kind of my thing. Just because you can do it, don't mean you have to do it. Just because you can do everything, don't mean you have to do everything. To have someone to be able to share your dreams and your desires with, to be able to share the load with, to do all those different things, that is a blessing. That is a beautiful thing. When it comes to, and you say, okay, well, you could get that in monogamy. Yes, you sure can, if that's what it is. If the person that you can get it in polygyny as well. That has to be your choice, not your parents' choice or not your family or relatives' choice. It's your choice. The thing is, polygyny is a form of marriage as monogamy is a form of marriage. The thing is, when you're practicing polygyny, you're still practicing monogamy with your husband, with your spouse. You're not married to his other wife. So the thing is once you're focused, and we talk about that in our RMIC, in our relationship mastery inner circle, when it comes to minding your marriage, when it all comes down to it, you are focused on your marriage. Yes, it's a different type of marriage, because even though you don't have to be friends with your co-wife, even though you don't have to be, all this other good stuff with your co-wife, it's good, it's great, it's best practice, but you don't have to be. But that doesn't negate the fact that you are married to your husband. That doesn't negate your relationship with your husband. That's the relationship you must focus on. And the thing is that your family or your relatives, they're not in that marriage. You are. You have to deal with that. You have to deal with the income and the outcome and everything like that from that relationship, from that marriage. And the thing is, if they're not Muslim, they don't know. They don't know the ins and outs and the rules and the regulations and things like that to have an input and a say on what you do with that. I had to tell my family, my relatives, that after a while, when I was more confident in my marriage and in my choice, I had to let it be known, because I felt it all along. It's just I was more confident to speak it. And I said, you don't know what you don't know. So because you don't know this, you can't say anything about this. So learn it first. And if I'm happy, you definitely can go somewhere with it, where else with it. I love you, but I would love you from a distance. And that's pretty much the way that the long and the short is of it. And I'm saying it as it's so simple, and it's not. It took some time. It took heartache. It took pain. It took, uncertainty. But doing it that way and being truthful and being honest with myself and my life and taking control over my life, that made me better. That made me a better person. It made me better in my relationships. And that includes my marriage as well as my relationship with my co-wife. My thing is, you have to be in control of it. Don't let nobody else control your life. You have to do that.
You're an adult. That's the simplest way to go. You're grown. So, prayerfully, you got some good stuff there. I would also suggest, look at the people that's saying that stuff. When I look at my relatives, please, we not only super dope in life, but our marriage and children and families on a whole nother level, because it's intentional. I could look at my grandparents and hear the drama, see the drama, and there was rumors that my grandfather had 3 wives. I don't know the facts of it because they don't like to talk about it. But I know, even looking through my family tree where we traced it, there was some relatives that had practiced polygyny. Nevertheless, look at their lives. Because Tamara, she says, I heard her say that. Just looking at the comments right here quickly on Facebook. Yeah, she says, I have 3 sisters. They all are married and older than I am, and they're all strong and independent, and also bitter and lonely.
Ooh.
Just being real. So look at them. Look at the quality of life and what they can point you to. What they should be instead of trying to tell you a weak woman, they know you. They should know whether or not you're already weak. All right. You are the one to determine whether or not that's the truth, or that's just something that's a projection of themselves. Okay. Very, very important to do that, because ultimately you're gonna be dealing with you, and your marriage is your marriage. And whether you happy married to a man who's married to other women or a woman, or if you just married to one individual, that's up to you and your marriage and minding it. Because when I think about the statistic that says every 18 seconds a woman goes into the ER from being battered in domestic violence, the vast majority of those are monogamous. And the vast majority of monogamous marriages fail, like the vast majority of all marriages fail. But if we had to focus on the morals and in developing our character, there'd be a lot more success and fulfillment along with that, not just sticking it through. All right, so think about that. Nevertheless, another question goes into, and we got about 10, 15 minutes max because there's a virtual graduation going on today for one of our daughters. So we got to bounce, and we already on here a little longer than expected, but we appreciate your feedback. Now, for those who are asking questions about, when she said the Relationship Mastery Inner Circle, of course, we have a $1 trial that's currently going on. If you go to outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM, I did put in the comments. You can check it out. You can get a few months right away and be able to download stuff and everything else and really go deeper than what we're doing today, because there's a whole process behind a lot of stuff we talked about. Actually, what we talked about today can take hours to really go on some of these points and lay a path together that can really be followed. Right now, we're just having a conversation with you. So outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM. If you got $1, then let's get started. 7-day trial. Nevertheless, Akil, good to see you, bro. Alhamdulillah. EP asks, as a black man, how to deal with a woman that I presented the idea of polygyny with. She counters with it being unfair due to her not being able to have multiple partners. Was that me? Oh, as a black man, yeah, I'm a black man. I'm like, it's really, really simple. That's actually, we did a video on that. Just a knee-jerk reaction, talking about like, why can we have more than one husband? And I was interested in that too, because I'm like, really, like, do women really want that? Seriously?
I almost said the H word.
I listened to my wives and they were like, well,
no.
Who wants to do that? What are the responsibilities of marriage? That usually is an instant knee-jerk reaction from someone who only considers marriage about sex. Again, did you just only marry this same woman about sex? Was that it? Oh, I like you too. Let's get married and have sex. Was that it? Is that as shallow as it was? No, attraction, of course, is important. But is that it? Like, really? Because that's what it seems that she thinks only polygyny is for. And do you really want that? And I heard them speak about it. Like, do we really want that? And it was like, do you really want to cook for more than one? Or do you really want to have to deal with children and all these types of things? When you look at polygyny, polygyny is family-based. Every other form of poly has other stuff going on. Polygyny, family structure. All the kids know who their father is. Do you know that in polyamory, polyandry? Nah. Yeah, you can go get a DNA test.
You can be pregnant.
You know what I'm saying? But we're talking about something that's practical. When you look at historically speaking, there's very, very few societies that practice it. And they can practice it again. People do whatever they want to do. That's their ultimate choice. We're of course going to be held accountable, but polygyny is actually family-based. And women aren't built like men. They aren't. So just that whole thing, how do you deal with it? Go check the video out, bro, because we don't want to go all into it again. Go into it, and it's from their perspective. When women, like, they don't really want that. They're looking more for security, somebody to put their heart with, everything else. So that's not that's interesting. It's a knee-jerk reaction, usually an emotional knee-jerk reaction. Sister Tamara she said she's an Israelite.
Hold on. If he wake up in the morning and ask me for an egg, I might have a little bit of an attitude. So I can't imagine people, like 3 of them moms asking for breakfast. Girl, please.
And we're not built like that.
Right.
We're not built like that. Women can be jealous, it can be catty, or some can even get violent.
Be shooting up your kitchen,
Men,
girl.
there's a reason when you think of a warrior, you think of a man. So
3 warriors
we built
fighting in the
differently.
bedroom? No,
No.
it's all good.
No, we're good.
No. Or separate houses. Think about that. You got men in these separate houses, and the woman just going to visit that. Really,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
anyway. Whatever. We're not gonna say that.
Goldilocks. I'm not finna visit all them beds.
Now, Tamara, Israelite in the Bible follow, newly married into polygyny to an amazing man. Congrats, by the way. And again, shalom or shalom. We've been so blessed by your videos. I share them with friends and they want to know more about polygyny. Excellent. You know what? Share this video. If you like this video, you're on YouTube, like it. You're on Facebook and you like it, share it. Get some more barakah, get some more blessings. Okay, now I'm gonna look for the question marks because I was reading it strong. I love you from a distance. That's right. And her name Felicia.
Right, deuces.
You are right. Puerto Rican and black to a single parent of 11. It's my mom and 7 sisters. You're right. I made my choice and believe, and I thank you for your time. Salam. That's no name did a new convert. Puerto Rican and black. Yours.
Love you too, Jacqueline.
My mother's Boricua.
Black and black.
So yeah, we Puerto Rican and black. All right. Multiple husbands. Right, Felicia. See? Yeah, you know we did. All right. She says that even if she doesn't have sex with others, she wants to have others to fulfill her needs socially, emotionally, etc. Then you got to evaluate you have to evaluate where you're at in life and your growth. You really do. I mean, of course, socially, you want to have a social circle of friends. I would suggest the book, The Charge, to get that. But if you feel that that's coming from, oh, she wants to have other men to fulfill her needs socially and emotionally and stuff like that, you might want to evaluate your relationship a little bit deeper. And again, I don't know you personally or anything like that, or her, for that matter, nor do I want to. But you got to evaluate your relationship. You know what I'm saying? What are you looking for in your relationship? What values are important to you? What things need to be worked on? What areas of growth need to happen in order for you to have a more fulfilling relationship? And we have, the 5 keys to fulfilling relationships on our site. It's a downloadable report. You can check it out if you haven't already. It's a white paper. So feel free, give us your email address, grab that. We also see some different videos and stuff as well. So look into that, bro. It's very important. Okay. Let's go to Facebook, because there's some questions over there as well. So Abu Zahid says, Brother Nasser, which is my son's name. My name is Nazir, but I understand. When the wives have a decent relationship and they have a fallout, what actions do you take, or do you let them reconcile on their own? One, they haven't really fell out.
No.
You know what I'm saying? They haven't had a fallout or anything.
Something.
At least that I know of, they haven't fell out.
No.
Maybe they didn't like something on a certain day. I don't know.
That would have been newsworthy.
Then the question is,
falling out.
You know what I'm saying? Or what would I do? They grown.
I suggest something.
They
I
grown.
suggest you stay out of it and let them work it out, because I'm telling
Yeah.
you now, on everything I love, if you get in that mess, they will blame you and tell you you're taking
They
sides and
sides.
everything else, bruh. Stay out there.
Even if they don't have a fallout, you might get that, you might be taking
Yeah.
sides. It might be just,
We talked
it's a
about
part of growth.
fallout.
Again,
Yeah.
Don't
Just-
get in there.
we've been practicing polygyny now. I've been practicing polygyny. Like, my wives don't practice polygyny. They're married to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just, we need to be clear on this as a husband with multiple wives. So we're in a polygynous relationship. That's how it can be described when describing the whole thing. But if you're talking to her, so Coach Nyla, how's polygyny? Well, she's part of the polygynous family, but she doesn't practice polygyny. She doesn't have any wives.
Can I just say
Okay.
something? We know a sister from overseas. She had to do one of these green card things. It said, do you practice polygamy on the survey? She said, I didn't know what to put. I said, you don't. He does. He need to put yes, not you. I mean, we telling the truth right now. You don't practice polygyny. Because there's a confusion that we practice it. We're involved in it, but we're not the husband. He practices polygyny.
All right.
I want to catch my daughter.
In the interest of time, because there's some other questions that require a little bit more. Listen, we have a course.
Yes.
All right, so if you're curious, is one thing. Tune into our YouTube video. We have well over 100 hours of training and going and answering questions and stuff like that. As well as on Facebook and IG. We see you, but
She gone.
camera turn around. You gone?
She gone.
Oh man. All right.
I told you.
Again, authenticpersonalrelationships.com/RM. You can do the dollar trial, see if it's for you. If it is, we'd love to have you on the inside, be able to go deeper, give you our personal email addresses. And we even have bonuses for some. And welcome our new members too, by the way. We have bonuses where we do a coaching session and stuff like that for new members as well. So again, able to go deeper, but let me see.
And thank you for the love for those of you
Omar
that say
Muhammad.
you love us, and salam to you.
Good friend of mine, he says, how do you seek a wife that fits you? That's a whole, number one, I'm going to tell you like this.
Second answer.
Become attractive. Become
there it
attractive.
is.
All right, and I'm not just talking about aesthetically trying to look good. That's good. That's important. But for a man, first of all, it's less important than it is for a woman. Men are visual, women, are more auditory. They say that men are seduced by the eyes, women are seduced by the ears. So when I'm talking about becoming more attractive, I'm talking about becoming better in your character. Better becoming in your character and what you're doing and the moves that you're making. All right, because you don't really have to find a wife at that point. The wives will find you, potential wives will find you, or our guardians will find you. Who is that brother over there doing such and such? I've noticed them doing such and such, or they behave. And it's so, look at the Prophet ﷺ. If you look at the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he was seen as honest and trustworthy and all of this stuff, and those traits stuck out at that time. So Khadijah radiallahu anha asked about him, and then told her servant that went with him on trading, how is he and what's going on with him? So those characteristic traits will help attract the right person to you. Okay, so become attractive. That's the easy answer. Of course, it's deeper than that. Do we know anybody down in Dallas, any Muslim poly families? not necessarily offhand, but here's the thing. Even if you're practicing polygyny, if you wanted to succeed the most based upon the topic of this with toxicity and poisonous tongues, especially from our own community, you remain private. You remain private. I'm gonna tell you how private it should be. It can and should be kept if you want to succeed, since that is the number one goal of the shaitan, is to destroy the family. Well, there's a brother I know. I've known, how long? I know I'm 96. Man, it's a long time. So I've known this brother a long time. 96, almost 24 years, right? I didn't know until last year. So 25 years later, or whatever, 24, 23 years later after knowing this brother, that his father, who I've known, and now he's an older senior citizen, good brother, staple in the community, that this brother's father had 2 wives. Had no idea. Now, of course, it's not my business. I have 2 wives. That's not my business. But he's the child of the incoming or second wife. I had no idea. So his family practiced polygyny quietly,
right up under our noses,
successfully for decades. So if there are successful families practicing poly in Dallas, probably won't hear of them, because it's best to keep your business quiet. Because sadly, we are in a society that is anti-morals, and it's easier to talk crazy about something that is a solution given by the Most High versus something that now is legalized and put out as though that should be normalized. And now today is Pride Month, but we know no one is going to enter Jannah or paradise with an ounce, mustard seed of pride in them. So what a name for this month. Think about that. All right. So no, I don't. Faisal. I guess I said all that. Okay. All right. We got to get ready to pack on up. Let me see. Adla Khalil Abdul Samad. After determining how time is divided, when you get an additional wife, how do you determine how the wealth, money, maintenance is divided? And with each additional wife, do you divide even further? Well, Islam requires that there be justice and fairness. And the great part is that it's flexible. All right, so whatever you agree to, we already know what the basis is. Basically, the man must provide the food, shelter, and clothing, and do it for the best of his means, period. Okay? Period. So if a woman is a multi-millionaire, for example, the man's making $60,000, $70,000 a year, it's still his responsibility to take care of. There's no questions about that. Now the flexibility is allowed where if somebody has 7 children, one has one child, that doesn't mean the one has 7 children, you have an 8-bedroom house, and now the one has 1 child, you need another 8-bedroom house, where it has to be equal like that. No, it's about justice and fairness. So with that being said, the flexibility is allowed to determine how you want to do things. So if someone else may own a business or they want to make it easier on this end, it's up to the individuals involved to decide how to go forward with that. So, and the same thing if there's a 3rd or if there's a 4th wife. All of these must be done in that way where there's fairness. So again, there's no cookie cutter, there's flexibility, but we know what the clear-cut rules are. And from that, you have to decide what's best for your family, or the imam or the man or the husband has to decide what's best and if it's even a possibility. So depending on the woman who has control in that situation, she has to determine, what that's going to be and what it's going to look like. So I hope that helped. And again, we go deeper into our RMIC course. So perfect, that's fine. You have anything to say about it? Okay. All right, cool. We got to wrap up. Let me see. I know. Okay, cool. We appreciate being with you again. Make sure if you're not already subscribed to what we do, subscribe to us on YouTube or like us on Facebook on the page. Share this information. We appreciate being of service. Perfectly got some good stuff today and can implement some things in your life. And if you want to go deeper on this topic of relationships, monogamy or polygyny, or the most important relationships in your life, check us out, outstatedpersonalrelationships.com. Again, we out. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace.
Remember to always practice GLC. Yep. we talk about that. We want to make sure you do that. Grow consistently, love intentionally, and make sure you are connecting on a deeper level every single day. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
And now we have to cut the cameras off. And we don't sell wall art. I kill. Just by the way. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
What happened here?
Oh, finish. Okay.
Where's
this one at?
I don't know.
Ooh. We are co-wives and co-founders of Outside Personal Relationships.
Let's go.
Y'all got it.
Okay,
Dang, you just have to curse.